While you're doing that, I'll just get the public picture.
Hello, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I declare the special council meeting open at 6:01 p.m. Good evening. Kaya, Wanneroo. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the Whadjuk people. We would like to pay respects to the elders of the Noongar Nation, past and present, who have walked and cared for the land, and we acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contributions made to the life of this city and this region. And I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we ask you bless your blessing upon our city, our community and our council. Guide us in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all and guide the city of Wanneroo to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Just the live streaming announcement. Please note that audio proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online, with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors, and there is nil of those matters this evening. That broadcast will be available via the City of Wanneroo website following the conclusion of the meeting. For the convenience of online listeners, the voting results will be read aloud. Item 1, attendances as per the record. Item 2 is apologies and leave of absence. We have an apology from Councillor Berry. Are there any requests for a leave of absence at all, councillors? Just checking. There is nil. Item 3 is public question time. I believe we've received some questions in writing and they've been responded to again in writing. Yeah, and they'll be responded to in the next council meeting. Item 4 is reports. So, councillors, we have one item on reports this evening. That is the adoption of the 2022-23, 25-26 corporate business plan and the 22-23 annual budget and the 22-23 fees and charges schedule. Councillors, I'll be moving that item, and Councillor Rowe, you'll be seconding that item. Good evening. Tonight I'm pleased to move the city's budget for 2022-23. I'd like to start off by highlighting that the priorities identified in this budget were heavily influenced by the themes in the city's strategic community plan, which is a guiding document that is directly shaped by engagement and consultation with residents, community groups, local businesses and other key stakeholders within and throughout the City of Wanneroo. Council and the City's administration have worked hard to deliver a balanced budget that will meet the needs of our growing community and, of course, also consider the local, national, international economic climate that is impacting upon us. Some of our newer members of Council will have for the first time experienced firsthand how very collaborative and detailed the budget process is at Wanneroo, with 4 budget workshops and countless discussions have been had around the table to deliver what is believed, and I believe, to be a fair, reasonable, sensible and practical budget for our community. In order to be financially accountable, the City follows robust financial and risk management policies to make sound decisions for our city. This includes long-term financial planning with a balanced approach to revenue and forecast expenditure for our future city. In engaging in this practice, the City should then be able to achieve the objective of intergenerational equity. Throughout the budgeting process, Council is guided by a number of strategies, plans and key policies to ensure a strategically aligned, sustainable and successful outcome. Notably, Council took its cues from the City's long-term financial plan, strategic community plan and the strategic budget policy. The strategic budget policy, which has also recently been reviewed by Council, received two important updates earlier this year. The first, that we strengthen our objective of stewardship, which now encompasses responsible stewardship of the City's assets, ensuring the resources of the City are well protected and used efficiently to accomplish the objectives of the City. The second is the addition of a new objective, which is responsible budgeting and accountability. I think these policy amendments speak volumes about Council's commitment to delivering community-led outcomes and working to stretch every dollar in the best interests of our community. This budget is based on a 3.75% increase in residential rates, which is well below the Consumer Price Index, CPI, of 7.6% year on year. We understand that many of our ratepayers are facing financial challenges. I think we are all facing similar financial challenges. The City's hardship policy recognises our responsibility to respond to the need of ratepayers experiencing hardship and ensure that everyone is treated with respect, dignity, fairness and equity. Just like households, councils are not immune to financial pressures caused by rising cost of living. Just recently, we've been advised that the street lighting tariff has been raised by 2.81% and fees and charges from the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation has increased by 10%. We understand however, it is not just sustainable or fair on future generations for councils to keep on dipping into reserves. So we have worked together to deliver a financially responsible budget that is sensitive to our community's needs. Tonight, Council will also consider the City's new corporate business plan, which provides clear links between our strategic direction and our operational delivery. This plan ensures that Council, together with administration, continues to effectively deliver the services, facilities and infrastructure our community demands, wants and relies on. As one of the fastest growing local governments in Western Australia, we are planning for the needs of our community, which will be home to more than 285,000 people by 2031. This $235 million budget includes $58.4 million in the Capital Works program designed to meet and fulfil the expectations of our community, support local businesses and at the same time create hundreds of local jobs. Projects earmarked as part of this year's budget support our goal to provide a connected, safe and accessible community through balanced investment in maintaining existing assets and delivering new services, programs and infrastructure. Now, some of the key areas of capital and operating budgets expenditure will include $57.3 million for roads, pathways and street lighting to improve road safety and connectivity across the city, $33.7 million to provide waste and recycling services to the city's 80,000 households, $23.7 million towards community sporting facilities to build healthy, safe and connected communities, $29.9 million to maintain, upgrade and develop new parks and playgrounds across our city, $18.9 million towards community health, safety and emergency management, $18.7 million towards the community facilities that promote healthy, active lifestyles and offer opportunities for our community to connect and socialise, $12.1 million for foreshore management and conservation works that protect and enhance our coastline for future generations, $10.8 million for libraries, museums and heritage programs that recognise and celebrate the rich history of our city and acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and our early pioneers. I'd like to personally extend my thanks and gratitude to my fellow elected member councillor colleagues for your efforts to achieve what I believe is the best outcome for our community. I'd also like to extend a personal thanks to the CEO and directors, managers and staff for supporting council during the development of this budget. Finally, to our community, our residents, ratepayers and local business owners, thank you for sharing your thoughts and suggestions for this budget and for working with us to create a vibrant and prosperous City of Wanneroo, now and for well into the future. Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. After 4 workshops, 14 hours of meetings and many hours of reading, we have finally made it to budget night. I thank the entire executive for their effort in preparing the budget and hearing our feedback throughout this process. In this budget, I believe the numbers speak for themselves. Inflation in Perth has hit 7.6%. Construction costs are up as much as 7.9%, combined with a minimum wage increase of 5.2%. Local governments are not immune to these cost pressures. Wanneroo has responded by scaling back events, delaying projects, renegotiating tenders and stretching staff resources. It is a tough balancing act, a difficult expectation to deliver more and charge less. Wanneroo is often compared to our neighbouring councils at Joondalup and Stirling. While we do work together, we face many of the consequences of growth alone. At Wanneroo, our budgets don't just maintain an asset portfolio. We must improve ageing facilities in the south, build the growing communities of the north, protect and preserve the western coastline, develop an industrial precinct to the east, and support our rural agricultural economy. Established, industrial, coastal, agricultural and developing. Our diversity is a strength, but it also comes with a heavy weight of responsibility. I believe we have a responsibility to govern in the interests of today and future generations, a responsibility to withstand pressure and make decisions based on fact and evidence, a responsibility to do what is right, not what is politically convenient, a responsibility to treat this budget as an investment in capital and in operations, not merely as a referendum on rates. Rates are undoubtedly a concern for our community as we experience unprecedented cost of living pressures. Our community are right to ask what Council is doing in response to this uncertainty. First, the rate increase is lower than the proposed amount which was publicly advertised. It is also significantly lower than the annual increases in state government fees and charges. Second, we remain committed to a financial hardship policy and supporting residents who are experiencing distress. I have assurances that the CEO can use discretion to waive administrative fees and grant concessions in accordance with the intent of the policy. Third, this budget commits to establish a service review working group. We must lead from the front to reduce expenditure, find savings and operate efficiently. Fourth, we will review the long-term financial plan in the coming months. Given the pressures on materials, contracts and labour, it is prudent to consider the scale and feasibility of capital projects into the future. On a personal note, I'm pleased to see this budget invests in key projects in the South Ward. Subject to state funding, our budget commits to fix one of the most dangerous intersections in the North Metro region, Girraween Avenue and Marangaroo Drive, after decades of advocacy from the local community. Our budget prioritises the rollout of CCTV cameras to improve safety and to deter crime. It upgrades several of our main entrance roads, installs fitness equipment at local parks, makes our community more accessible and creates shared pathways for pedestrians and cyclists. This is our budget and we have a responsibility to share it with residents. We must promote the benefits, recognise the constraints and accept the feedback. Some in our community may disagree with my decision to support this budget tonight. You may be frustrated or angry. I respect your view and will do my best to explain the reasons for my vote. Irrespective of tonight's vote, I hope we can all work together respectfully. As councillors, we have an obligation to call out abuse and misinformation, to look out for each other in the interests of our community, to unite, not to divide. I ask fellow councillors to please support this budget tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillors, remiss of me, I did have a declaration of interest that I should have declared prior to moving and speaking to the budget, but I will do that now. I declare with respect to item SCS010622 that with regard to that item, I disclose that I am a member of the Quinns Rock Social Club, the Wanneroo Sports and Social Club, and I am the patron of the Badminton Association of Western Australia, Inc. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on this matter might be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Just on that, councillors, is there anyone else with declarations? Councillor Aitken.
With regard to item SCS010622, I disclose that I'm a social club member of the Yanship Sports and Social Club, and as a consequence there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter here might be affected, and I declare that I'll consider this matter on its merit and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, through the Chair. Yes, I also have an impartiality declaration to make. With regard to the sole item currently before the Chamber this evening, I disclose that I am a financial member of the Yanship Surf Life Saving Club Inc. and that I am an age manager assist. As a consequence, there may be a perception, a mere perception, that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Rowe.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. In relation to the item that's on the agenda this evening, I disclose that I'm a financial member of the Lions Club of Girrawayne. As a result, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. However, I declare that I will consider the matter on its merits and vote.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Coetzee.
Thank you. With regard to the current item, I disclose that I'm a member of the Yanship Sports Social Club and the Yanship Surf Life Saving Club. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor Coetzee. Okay, councillors, we then move into statements from elected members. So, speakers for the item. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Firstly, I would like to add my thanks and appreciation to administration and our CEO, Daniel Sims, for their ongoing and continuous hard work on both the annual budget and corporate business plan, which entails literally hundreds of hours. As a councillor, it is my responsibility to understand and, if needed, question the advice, information, and ultimate recommendation and reports presented by administration for approval or refusal. Attending all forums where these discussions take place is imperative to sound decision-making. Councillors will come and go. At the core of any local government, there must be an effective, highly educated and experienced team of employees that ensure council is well informed of all aspects of what is taking place or needs to take place in the City of Wanneroo on any given day. While it is my responsibility to listen to individual residents' concerns and needs, which I do with pleasure, ultimately I must consider what is best for the majority of residents throughout the city when making any decision. Right now, residents and businesses can be assured that the administration of this city is one of, if not the best, at a local government level in Western Australia. Knowing this gives me the knowledge and confidence I need to support the recommendation and rates increase of 3.75%. In doing so, I can assure residents that this is a responsible and considered increase which cannot be avoided. The city as an organisation is facing increases in the same way as every resident's household across the city, be it wages, building, maintenance cost, increases in electricity, water, petrol. The city is not exempt. The increase in residents' rates this year will equate to an approximate cost of $60 per household per year. On its own, not a hugely substantial amount, but coupled with all the other rising costs to families already under financial stress, I do understand the impacts and am deeply concerned, but I'm confident that the city has mechanisms in place to assist ratepayers in this instance. I am also crucially aware of the ongoing impacts of world events and those implications to small and large businesses, which are still recovering and facing increasing operational and overhead costs, further adding huge pressure and mental stress. All of this taken into consideration, as a councillor, I have a legal obligation to ensure the short and long-term budgeting done by the city ensures the organisation remains in a strong financial position, capable of weathering further storms as it has done in the past 2 years. Intergenerational equity must be considered. Cutting costs and service delivery further than has and is being done in the short term, while popular, will increase the pressure on forward budgets, resulting in future generations being adversely affected by exorbitant rates and a diminished quality of life, which will not meet the needs and aspiration of the city's residents, and further, not comply with statutory obligations. I have never and will never promise a zero rates increase to residents.
Excuse me, Councillor Parker, if I can have a motion to extend? Yep, move Councillor Baker, seconded Councillor Wright. Are there any opposed? There being none. Councillor, you have another 3 minutes.
Thank you. I have never and will never promise a zero rates increase to residents. What I do promise is to always act with integrity, honesty and transparency, assuring all residents in the City of Wanneroo their best interests are represented by myself, based on facts brought to me by the administration of the city under the leadership of Mr. Sims. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I too support the 3.75% increase in our rates in this year, and it goes along the lines as something that I said when I was first elected to council back in 2017, that I would always manage and support a budget that was at or around inflation. And we've actually exceeded that extremely well on this occasion because, as we know, the state CPI is at 7.6%. Nationally, it's currently at 5.1%, which I understand is going to probably go up to about 8%. And we're going to be fixing our charges for this next 12 months at 3.75% as a rate increase, and our other fixed charges as well for the current year. I do believe that our community is going to be heading into a very serious crisis when it comes to the cost of living, and I think that our council is going to be doing its best to make sure that its residents can afford to stay in place, stay in their homes, and live as comfortably as possible. The other thing I do also support is this year, Councillor Civic and myself are on the Mindarie Regional Council as this council's delegates We've worked very extensively with our other councillors on that council, and we've been able to bring the gate price of the rubbish that goes in there down to $145, which is a big achievement from what it was a few years ago. And it's not just because of the closing down of the resource recovery facility, it's also some other major changes that have been done over on that site. Also, as part of, I just want to have a quick acknowledgement to Julia Tremba. She sent us all, councillors and the administration, a thank you letter. As part of this budget, we're obviously passing over the bus funds and the bus management to the Two Rocks Recreation Association. I do think it's important that the community's been able to run that for many, many years, which they have, but now we're going to give them full control of that, including the budget to keep running that and still support them going forward. With regard to some of the local funding, it is very interesting to see that we're going to be putting in some modern new play equipment into the Banksia Grove Pakelia Park. It is a park that's already served out its life. I was only up there a few months ago with some of the residents, and they're very joyed to see that happening. Delamere Park is also another original park up there, and we are going to be also looking at putting in some exercise equipment, which the community is asking for. It's the new thing. I want to also thank and close off and thank our finance team. My wife's an accountant. I know exactly what she's been doing with her budgets at her work, and I know that working till 1 o'clock in the morning is not uncommon for an accountant, especially at budget time, and also having to deal with executives at that time of night as well. So the executive CEO, and I know Nolene Jennings has probably sometimes maybe not wanted to go home because she had to come back so early in the morning. And I do support the work that they've done. And also we have, as a council, we are driving some true economies of savings in these last few years of budgets, and I know administration has to deliver on those as we want to be able to deliver what we can to our community in a timely manner. But obviously with the cost pressures that are hitting everybody, we need to make sure that we attempt to ease that burden, and if it means pushing off a project for a couple of years, then I think we need to do it as councillors. But I do support the budget. It has taken some time to do. I commend the budget to council.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillor Savitton.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, I am certainly very thankful that we've got to this point. After 4 budget workshops and considerable time, I'd like to thank administration for what they've done. They have listened to council. We've pruned where we could prune. We've made this a balanced budget. And in my 20 years, bar 2, we've always delivered to the City of Wanneroo residents what we can in terms of our projects, etc., to make sure that this council is one of the top councils in the metropolitan area. I would like to say at this point in time that some of the projects that are coming through, we've had to prune them down at 3.75% is the figure that we're looking at this point. We were looking higher, and I know for a fact that there are councils out there in the metropolitan area and externally that are looking at higher figures than that, and I think there may be the odd one here and there that may be looking at lower, but they still have to balance their budget, and it's important that we deliver to the community of Wanneroo the best possible outcome with the least possible pressure. And I think with all that's been said tonight, this is a very good budget for the times that we're in with COVID, with the inflationary rates that are going to be impacting us even more over the next 2 or 3 years, and that worries me a lot. Also, external or international events which may have a huge impact on our lives. That's fuel and what's happening in Russia, etc., etc. We have to be very thankful that we live in a country like this, and if you work very, very hard, and things will go your way in the end. So I thank Council and Administration for the way that we've looked at this, and I encourage all councillors to support this budget this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Savitton. Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillor Coetzee.
Thank you. Before I start, I would like to say thank you to administration for all of your hard work. And I would also like to say that out of all of our meetings, for me, this is the most challenging one of all. For the past 2.5 years, we all went through a very unusual and challenging time. Many businesses had to close their doors, others lost customers and business, and some lost their jobs. We all felt the burden of COVID and still feel it in some form or another. COVID and now the war in the Ukraine impacted supply chains and resources. The city had to stop or defer some services during this period, including infrastructure and development projects. Operations are coming back to normal. However, the overall cost of materials, fuel, utility, labour and contracts are higher than the 2021-22 revised budget, with the main increase from contract expenses as a result of an increase in current market price, escalations and demand for services, increased material expenses due to high current market prices and growth in services, and increased fuel and utility expenses as a result of recent price escalations. The city needs to be financially sustainable to continue delivering value for money services and provide required infrastructure for the future. The city's population is growing rapidly, and the demand for various new infrastructure and services is also increasing. To provide new infrastructure and services, the city has to maintain the existing infrastructure and provide the level of service that the community expects. Rates make up approximately 2/3 of the city's revenue. Rates are generated to allow the city to continue providing services, facilities, and capital works for the community in a financially sustainable manner while providing support and maintaining jobs. It takes into account new assets, growth and services due to an increase in population and the number of properties with corresponding income and expenditures. The city will continue to find savings in operational and capital expenditures over the next year, wherever possible. The city's reserves will be used again to support key capital works projects to meet the demand of a growing population, especially in the northern and eastern suburbs. The city will maintain the same waste service charge from 2021-22 at $410 through the support of a decrease in the Mandari Regional Council gate fees. One of my main concerns is our pensioners living off their pension and low interest rates for most of the past year. Also, some community members that are under financial difficulty for various reasons. The city provides concessions to those who meet the state government's criteria and have a financial hardship policy in place, which is accessible to ratepayers who are in financial difficulties. The city will continue to offer a discount in 2022 and 2023 to contained pensioner groups as part of its ongoing concession costings. It is with a heavy heart that I support an increase at the minimum required to continue providing services, facilities and capital works for the community in a responsible and financially sustainable manner. This will benefit the majority of residents in the long term, support business and help in maintaining jobs.
Thank you, Councillor Coetzee. Speakers against? Speakers for?
A question, please, Mr Chair.
Councillor Baker.
Yes, my question is directed to Nolene Jennings. It relates to the second sentence in paragraph 2 on page 5 of the agenda. That reads as follows, just bear with me. Yes, it reads, based on, I beg your pardon, based on this, the City has adopted its strategic budget policy on 22 March 2022. That particular adoption meeting, what was the nature of that meeting, and what was the resolution that was before the meeting, please? Thank you.
Mrs Jennings?
Thank you. Through the Chair, the 22nd of March 2022 was an ordinary council meeting, and the item was the strategic budget policy and the amendments to the strategic budget policy, which included the PwC recommended rates increase per year, plus the changes that were actually mentioned by the Deputy Mayor in his motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Jennings. Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I conducted a budget survey over December and January about my priorities and projects for the community that I would like to see, but also with the residents. There are 106 submissions made up of community groups, residents, businesses and ratepayers spread equally across the 5 suburbs in the Central Ward, both through online and hard copy formats. As a result, I've managed to secure 15 projects in this budget for the 22-23 year that came from the survey. I thank my fellow councillors for allowing me to secure an extra 2 projects for the Central Ward, but also extend that thank you to the CEO, directors, managers and staff. Residents are aware that the costs have gone up, and that applies to local government too. I won't talk about what everyone has talked about tonight, but I will highlight some other points. The state government has also increased all of its tariffs and fees that it charges the city, such as the street lights and emergency services levy, which has also put pressure on the budget line. And with employee wages rising, it makes it more of a challenge as we continue to grow as a council. I thank all the submissions I've received from the community, and your voices have been heard. I will be supporting the budget on the condition that there is a commitment from the CEO and administration and also councillors to reset the long-term financial plan and increase service reviews, starting with service areas that are supposed to be run by the state government, followed by service areas that have the highest discretionary expenses. This is outlined in recommendation 12 tonight. A restructure and rescope City of Wanneroo is needed, and a strong stop to discretionary spending will be my priority over the next year, leading up to the next budget. As a new councillor, I was only sworn in October last year, and it has not given me enough time to be able to push for the reviews to our policies and strategies. I'm a strong believer that we should play more of a role in supporting our local groups and organisations and being the banker instead of trying to run everything ourselves. Private organisations can do far more with the same amount of money. However, on a better note, as a council, we have fought together as a team to lower the rates as much as we could, and I would like to highlight we were the only council in the whole entire state to decrease from the advertised rate 4% to 3.75. I have one clear message to my fellow colleagues and administration. I will not be so forgiving next time, and I've made it very clear what my expectations are and where my priorities will be for the next budget. Restructure, rescope and cut discretionary spending. I know citywide this is a budget for the community and it is a balanced budget, but on a local level, I would like to finish on highlighting some of the key projects that will take place in the Central Ward, which I know residents will be happy about, and some familiar projects which were raised during the community survey. Supporting heritage through upgrading the Wanneroo Regional Museum, caring for our animals with a new building for the Animal Care Centre, investing in community through continuing to progress with the upgrade of the Wanneroo Rec Centre, new toilets for Hinkley Park in Hocking so family can enjoy using our parks longer, investing in our art sector through upgrading the Wanneroo Art Gallery, protecting our environment through offsets at Badgerup Reserve, building a new boardwalk at Yellowgonga Regional Park for our nature lovers, strong investment in your children by upgrading Rotary Park, connecting our local streets with parks through completing the pathway at Amory Park, improving our ageing parks such as the upgrade of Taywood Park and Benbridge Park, continuing to upgrade Aquamotion in Wanneroo, supporting our youth through the Wanneroo BMX Club, investing in community sport by upgrading the Wanneroo Showground club rooms, adding lighting to Edgar Griffiths Dog Park for our dog lovers, creating safer places by fixing stormwater drainage issues at the shopping centre, creating safer roads through traffic treatments on Treejet Road, and many others which I received last night. I like to highlight this because this is replicated throughout all of our wards, and I know that each and every councillor around this table will have those projects in their own local context. I'd like to thank administration, the CEO, and everyone around this table for the discussions that we have had, and also the teamwork that has taken place to be able to get to this point where we do have a good outcome for both community but also for our council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright, and I know you will take this in the spirit that it's given. Good on you. Speakers against? Speakers for? Oh, sorry, Councillor Herridge. Yes, I did have you down.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. As my first budget process, it's certainly been eye-opening. The amount of hours that councillors have put in alone is more than I certainly realised, and I also thank my fellow councillors for their help and guidance through this process. I've learnt many takeaways for the next budget round. What has been impressive to me is the level of hours in dedication, commitment and professionalism of the entire team, from our executive to staff, during the last few months. They've not only produced a balanced budget on several reviews, they've also maintained the city's operational day-to-day business at the same time, something that I feel needs to be commended. The budget I'm more than happy to support. It gives the city a balance for the wards in capital expectations of a growing council and in keeping to the community standards in expectation of services. For our own South West ward, there are a number of long-term projects being progressed and I look forward to seeing them through. As a lady of few words, I'll close with the reassurance to our residents and ratepayers that the budget to be adopted tonight has not been taken lightly and is more than just the rate setting. It's a budget for the city in its entirety. My vote in favour is for the budget as a whole. Each and every project, capital and operational expense, staffing and fees associated. To vote in the negative would be for me voting against the last 4 months of work and hours put into this document as presented to us for approval. I'm proud of what's been achieved between the entire team and look forward to taking our South West ward through the next 12-month journey. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Herridge. Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillor Aiken.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to Nolene and the whole team who have actually struggled and persevered and gone through line after line item to get the budget to where it is at the moment. I'd also like to thank my fellow councillors for working together as a collegiate team to be able to get there. And what is even more fantastic is that we have a $235 million budget, and yet only $147 million is being raised by rates. We have managed, our team has been able to manage to get grants and use reserves to be able to make maximum provision to the residents of the city of Wanneroo without costing them $235 million this year. They only have to raise $147 million. And $147 million divided across all of our residents adds up on average to $51 per residence a year. That is less than $1 a week. And when we look at that, that is really frugal, and we have maximised our cloth. We have cut our cloth to fit our budget, but we've maximised every garment, every project we have produced for our residents. We have an $83.5 million capital works program. How amazing is that? And I'm sure Harminder can't wait until tomorrow, and he'll be cracking the whip on his team and getting them working quick smart to have it done by the 30th next year. In Western Australia, for the last quarter, we've had a CPI increase of 7.6%. And if we looked at our long-term financial plan and our plans for that, we would be doing a 9.6% if we did CPI plus 2%. There is no way we can do this to our community. And I look forward in the next 12 months to reviewing our long-term financial plan and bringing it on board so that it is realistic to when we move to budget and our corporate business plan, and that the staff are able to plan appropriately for the future without CPI plus 2, but in a more realistic way. We have had significant cost escalations, but despite the cost escalations, our waste resources levy stays at $4.10 per house, $410 per household. And we've managed to keep our rates levy increase at 3.75% and still maintain our current service levels. But the state government haven't hesitated to increase their charges and costs. The city is on average, the state government's cost to the city is on average more than CPI, and the state government expects we can absorb these costs, and to a certain extent we have. Utility charges have increased by 6.7%, the emergency services levy by 5%. All of these come up. We need to be balanced. There's a $5.7 billion surplus in the state government, yet they're still increasing their costs. We have cut our cloth to our budget. The state government needs to cut their cloth and stop trying to cost shift onto us the whole time. I'm really excited that we're looking at solar at Neerabup. We've got Heath Park, we've got Splendid Park, we've got community services investment. Across the board, we are improving the lifestyle for our residents, and I'm really excited to support this budget and looking forward to the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Speakers against? Councillor Nguyen.
They were waiting for that.
Thank you, Chair. For the last 2 years, I've been advocating for a rate freeze. And the reasons haven't changed. In fact, the circumstance and the environment that we are dealing in is actually worse than before. I do agree that we need to cut our cloth. In fact, we need to cut a lot more fat than what we've done so far. What I'll be talking about is I'll be presenting some of the facts. This is data that, in terms of financial stress, and what we need is a big reset, which I've raised many times before. A big reset to consider the services that we have, to consider the mandatory and discretionary spending, and what is value for money for our residents. I know there are a lot of savings that are available. We've seen it, and it's a method of how we deliver to get better outcome for our residents. So we know in the last 2 years we have been going through COVID, and we are dealing with it, and we are living in COVID, and we're sort of living with COVID right now. And we know businesses haven't fully recovered. There are many businesses that have closed and have not reopened, and it's still a struggle for them. We know that financial stress is right now the most dominant issue in their family right now. And look, I'll read some of the data that I have from, again, this is
taken recently on the 9th of June 2022. This deals with all of the financial stress, and Wanneroo is in the top 10 areas that is suffering from financial stress. And so the area that is right now suffering, 65% of the residents in these areas are suffering from mortgage stress right now. And these areas include Ashby, Dart, Nangara, Hocking, Jandabup, Lansdale, Lexia, Madley, Purcell, Wangara, Wanneroo, Tapping, Sinagara, and Pinjar. The other area in Wanneroo that's suffering from mortgage stress at 84.62% is Clarkson, Miriwa, Mindari, Queens Rock, Richwood, and Tamala Park. That's an extraordinary percentage of the percentage of people that are suffering from mortgage stress right now. So consider that for a moment. Now, every time that we open up our council meeting, we open up with the prayer. We ask for your blessings upon our city, our community, and our council. Guide us in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, and honesty. May we show true leaderships to be inclusive of all, not many, or guide the city of Wanneroo to a prosperous future. So how can we have a prosperous future if 65 to 80% of our residents right now suffering from financial stress, and we're actually mortgage stress, and we are not doing more to help them? I am united with many of our councillors looking at reducing expenditure, finding savings, and certainly finding ways to operate efficiently. And I'm encouraged by that, and I think we're all looking at the same goal. Just how we deliver that with respect, I am of a different view. I think there are many other ways that we can explore, opportunities that we haven't considered, and this is why I will be raising some of these points right now. Excuse me, Councillor Nguyen, motion to extend. Move Councillor Baker. Seconded Councillor Wright. Councillors, I have a mover and seconder to extend. All those in favour? That's passed. Councillor.
Thank you. I had a petition that was presented to me, but unfortunately, as this is a special council meeting, it appears that I couldn't present it for our councillors to consider tonight. But there are hundreds of residents that have signed a petition indicating that they do not want a rate increase. Now, some of those reasons, as you have rightly pointed out, including the rising cost of living, we know the petrol costs, groceries and everything else, the rent, the labour costs, material, the building costs have all gone up. We know that the interest rate have gone up a couple of times. The last interest rate, I think that was the highest in record in the last 20 years. 0.5 basis point. We know there's increases in the homelessness and there's mental stress. So never really seen before. This is the environment that we operate in. I know it's difficult, it's hard, and we're all trying to do our best for our residents. But there are levers that we can consider to actually work on a rate freeze. We've got a massive project that we put in our long-term financial plan, and that is the Alkimos pool. and that's expected to cost us $70 million. I know the federal government has given us probably half of that money, but do we really need a $70 million pool? We know the community need a pool, right? For $70 million in this climate, all I'm asking is, can we review what we can afford? We haven't even budgeted for the operating expenses yet, and we know that this is a loss-making project, but it is good for the community. So I'm not suggesting that we completely remove the pool. I'm suggesting to find value in delivering this pool to our community. I had the honour of visiting the BMX club last Friday, and I understand they're expecting to receive funding for about $1 million from the government. And I'm told that that $1 million for them, they probably can extend that to probably $1.4 million because they are a community organisation, something that we cannot do within the council. So we can consider how we deliver future projects. So that way our money given to the community will go further than actually within our hand. And we know there are services that are being delivered right now that are not given the best value for money. We have seen these services that are actually not making money at all. How we change delivery of our, for example, our waste bin collection, can that achieve some savings? And I believe there are options available in how we collect waste in the future that we can achieve these sort of savings. How we deliver for social events in the future. Okay. Now, we know we've had many big events, but there aren't that many people that turn up to these events that cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, how can we improve these events so that it can be delivered by local clubs, organisations, and I think they probably do a better job than us in terms of value. They will have volunteers and they can deliver better than we can. So there are many levers. I won't name them all. We've got.
Sorry, Councillor, that's time. Okay. No more extensions, unfortunately. Standing orders don't allow for it. Maximum to 10 minutes. Thank you, Councillor. It's in the standing orders. Councillor Aitken.
I'd just like to ask a question.
Certainly, Councillor Aitken.
I just want to clarify through the chair the data about the mortgage stress, where the source was and what date it was and where the research was got from for that information that was presented. Thank you.
It would have been nice for that to be shared with all of us, I would imagine, Councillor. Yes. Councillor Nguyen, the source of that information and data and the validity?
Yes, so it's off an article online entitled Homeowners and Renters Facing Record Levels of Financial Stress, dated the 9th of June 2022, and the data comes from Digital Finance Analytics from Martin North.
Was that a publication or was it a blog, Councillor?
It's an article online.
Okay, answers that question. Hopefully that answers, yeah, thank you, Councillor. Speakers for, Councillors. Speakers against? Councillors with that aisle, no, Councillor, you've had plenty of time. Speaker for?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes.
Don't panic, don't panic.
No, I just,
okay.
It was a blank room, Councillor.
No, you're right, you're right. So I was hanging out to the end. I was tossing and turning, and anyhow, the time cost has gone your way. But yes, look, I'd like to thank elected members and staff for the work put into the budget. It is a good budget of itself, within itself, certainly. There can be no issue in that regard. The point is that, as per the writ notice that we issued back on 12 May, the City did receive 33 submissions in response, 19 of which said there should be a 0% rates increase, and 9 raised concerns that the rates are unaffordable and requested the City review its services and service levels to reduce costs. There can be no issue in that regard. As many residents would be well aware, Australian families are experiencing what all outlets in the media have consistently described as a cost of living crisis. The causes of this crisis are many and varied, ranging from large increases in the retail price of fuel and electricity, or fuels I should say plural, or energy expenses, and also rising labour costs, all the way through to the effect that COVID has had upon the supply chain blockages, and also disruptions disruptions caused by the war in the Ukraine, as well as interest rate hikes. All these things are interrelated, so to speak. There can be no issue, of course, that our city needs to generate a minimum rate income from rates to ensure that, at the very least, the essential services and facilities are delivered to the Wanneroo community. The obvious issue is how do we go about determining which services are essential and hence which services should be prioritised. The primary reason why I'm supporting this budget, which is a good budget in itself, is primarily because of paragraph 12, that the City, hopefully, will establish a service review working group to review the services. My view is that working group should also include third-party external experts with backgrounds in local government financial planning and auditing, and also community service delivery. I believe it would be great if we get one member each into that working group with those sorts of qualifications, someone who's independent and third-party. Now, this independent working group, assisted by elected members, of course, can be provided with very specific terms of reference, which should include, amongst other things, the following. Number 1, the identification of wasted expenditure. Number 2, which services the City is mandated by the Local Government Act to provide. These are statutory services. Number 3, which services the City provides over and above those mandated by the statutory services. This is known as discretionary spending. Number 4, which services are a hybrid of the statutory services and mandatory services. What is the total gross cost of providing each service? Number 6, any fund or any such category of service provided by the state or federal governments or any other agencies, should be no government duplication. Number 7, any income derived from fees and charges charged to the users of those services. Number 8, whether any such service is a duplication of a service provided by the state and federal governments or any of their agencies or the private sector, subject to finances. Number 9, the grading of the community's perceived need for the provisions of any such service, and also the cost per head, the net cost per head to the users of those services. Further, my view once again is that this is an opportunity to actually finally, once and for all, establish this committee, work through it, do a proper line by line, and I don't care if it takes, we'll give you 8 hours sleep a day, 3 or 4 days, working days or weekends. It doesn't matter, it's so important. The proposed third-party members who have the skills can greatly assist us in terms of achieving this desired outcome. As members are aware, the Council recently approved a decision to enable us to appoint an additional external expert with a financial background to assist our Audit and Risk Committee. Using the same rationale, we can do that within the scope of paragraph 12. Look, in conclusion, I'll be very brief on nearly there. The Wanneroo community, our community is experiencing a cost of living crisis. You heard the stats referred to by Councillor Newell a few minutes ago. I've read those stats before in other leading articles, the Financial Review, etc. Now is not the time, certainly not the time in a crisis, to increase rates at a rate well in excess of the assumed CPI for Perth for the 22-23 financial year. We can find savings and we can do much more to eliminate waste. A simple example, the Festival and Cultural Events Committee managed to find savings of $200,000 a couple of weeks ago. That's a lot of money. That's one working committee. And the primary reason for that was because we agreed to can, so to speak, the V8 supercar race dinner. I think it was costing the city $81 per head. Now, we've canned that because we all got an invite. Historically, when it was operating, we all got an invite. We're invited to bring one guest. We're allowed to bring one guest. And that was perceived by many people in the community as being just a junket. That, right or wrong, that was the perception. So in a nutshell, I agree with Councillor Newell. Now is the time for a fair income financial reset for our city. I would ask elected members to get on board with my sentiments. If they don't want to get on board, can they please get out of the way and let us achieve that reset? It is vital. Now is the time, and also time is of the essence. The crisis is with it now. It's not emerging, it is a crisis now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Speakers against? Speakers for? Councillors, I'll exercise the right of reply and close debate. I won't say a great deal, councillors, but something very interesting, a very interesting statistic came up at Alga last week, and these are the bits of snippets that you're not aware of until you actually speak with learned people at such events. And a very interesting statistic came up, and I was in deep conversation with Councillor Wright about this one. Of the total tax generated in all levels of government across this country, 4% is apportioned to local government. Yet local government provides 25% of all of the services and facilities that are provided by every level of government across this country. So 4% of the tax accrues to 25% of the services and deliveries. We are, in effect, a very effective and efficient and responsive level of government, and that I think has, with all of our new elected members, probably been keenly demonstrated in our discussions across the past month or so. I think two other things that I think are very, very obvious. It is, and we are acutely aware of, councillors, I feel I'm absolutely confident I speak for all of you, at the forefront of our mind through all of our discussions was the impact of cost of living on our community right now. That has been at the forefront of our mind. The other thing which is quite, which I think I can speak confidently about, is the universal approach to service review and service review processes. It isn't new. We have been doing it for many, many years, and it is continuing. We had a demonstration of that last night, but formalising that into a dedicated service review committee, I think, provides the impetus. And generally, I think the sentiment, broadly, I think, would replicate those words spoken by Councillor Baker. So with that, councillors, I'll close debate, and I will put the 2022-23 budget to the vote. If councillors, I could ask you to cast your votes. Councillors, I declare that carried 12-1. So voting for is myself, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Civic, Councillor Miles, Councillor Sangali, Councillor Aitken, Councillor Baker, Councillor Coetzee, Councillor Parker, Councillor Huntley, Councillor Wright and Councillor Herridge, and against is Councillor Newen. Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, we then move on to item 5, confidential. There is nil. We move on to item 6, date of next council meeting. The council members' briefing session is to be held Tuesday the 5th of July 2022 at 6 p.m. And item 7 is closure, and I declare the meeting closed at 7:08 p.m. Thank you, councillors.